Hello, students, and in this video clip, we are going to discuss about the abuse of legal process. In the last class, we have discussed about the malicious prosecution. Now, we are going to discuss about abuse of legal process. When it comes to definition, the Stephen Fleming definition, it says, unlike the malicious prosecution, the gist of this tort lies not in wrongful initiation of criminal proceedings, but in the misuse of process, no matter how properly obtained, for any purpose other than that which it was designed to accomplish. It involves notion that the proceedings were stalking horse to course dependent in some way entirely outside the ambit of legal claim upon which the court is asked to adjudicate, and it is therefore immaterial whether the suit which that the process commenced was founded on reasonable cause or even terminated in favor of person initiating it. The improper purpose, the grave men liability. The street definition says that it is a tort to use legal process in its proper form in order to accomplish a purpose that for which it was designed and therefore cause damage. The legal abuse refers to unfair or improper legal action initiated with a selfish and malicious intention. Abuse can originate nearly any part of the legal system, which includes frivolous and factious litigations, abuses by law enforcement, incompetent, careless, corrupt attorneys, misconduct from the judiciary itself. The the use the legal process, the court procedures to accomplish an improper unlawful purpose is considered to be an abuse of legal process. Such abuse stems from unnecessary improper motions causing the court to issue warrants, summons, other mandate. Abuse of process may also include serving legal documents that were never actually filed in court for the purpose of intimidating someone. The abuse of process refers to improper use of civil and criminal action, civil and criminal legal procedure for unintended or malicious, perverse reason, and it is malicious and deliberate misuse of regularly issued civil or criminal court process that are not adjudicated by underlying the legal action. The legal abuse is a reason responsible not only for injustice but also harm to physical and psychological or societal health. Someone exploits the legal system to assert power and control over you, and he or she is engaging abusive legal litigation. The abuse of process, how it differs from the malicious prosecution. The abuse of process and malicious prosecutions are very similar in that they both seek cause some difficulties to party, to harass or intimidate a party or delay the proceedings. These issues are, however, different from another. Proving them in court requires a different elements. The abusive process involves creating additional process during course of active litigation, and malicious prosecution, on the other hand, involves initiating lawsuit or criminal claim without good reason or probable cause. So, what are the elements of proving the abuse of legal process? The abuse of legal process requires certain elements to be met. These include there is an ulterior motive or purpose to process. The process or some portion of it is not proper a regular course of proceedings, which is not to be required to be proven in the process of claim includes there was a malaise in pursuing the abuse process. There was a probable cause for initiating or procuring the process. The case was resolved in favor of party making an abuse of process claim. The essential elements of malicious prosecution include successful malicious prosecution claim requires all the following. beginning and continuing criminal and civil action proceedings without legal grounds, without the reasonable grounds to believe allegations of proceedings, with the purpose other than simply getting a judgment in the proceedings, and that the proceedings have been terminated in favor of person being prosecuted or sued. The, the basic elements for action include a proceedings is a first one is proceedings. The criminal proceedings is a process where the government can punish a person, this ranging from offences like murder to parking a ticket. A civil proceedings is typically where the plaintiff is not government entity, although the defendant might be, and the plaintiff is suing for money or injunction. Even if people bringing criminal and civil proceedings think that they are winning a case or suing for legitimate reason, when they begin the case, they can be guilty of malicious prosecution. If they discover reason, they cannot win during the case and continues the case for improper motives anyway. Reasonable grounds. The person bringing the original prosecution or lawful suit, a lawsuit, must have a reasonable ground. That is, the reasonable person in their place would think that legal action was legitimate, had a chance of winning. However, a person bringing a prosecution or lawsuit knows that action is illegitimate, and there is no need to prove the hypothetical reasonable person would think that it was illegitimate. Improper purpose. The improper purpose typically, if a lack of reasonable grounds is proved, an improper purpose will be assumed. This means the plaintiff in malicious prosecution action does not necessarily need to prove that the defendant action does not necessarily need to be proved. The defendant had improper purpose. However, the defendant can prove that he or she had proper purpose. The plaintiff will not win. For example, defendant was only doing what is his and her attorney recommended. Even though the lawsuit had no probable cause, the defendant may not be guilty of malicious prosecution if he unreasonably and but mistakenly thought her lawsuit were legitimate. Favorable termination. Finally, the plaintiff in malicious prosecution suit must have successfully defended against whom the previous illegitimate lawsuit. In other words, if a person was convicted for criminal charges, had to pay damages in civil suit, he or she cannot sue for malicious prosecution basing on the criminal or civil action. Who is liable for action then? The person using legal process with malice in order to attain personal purpose, not similar to what it crusts of the litigation, are liable for intentional tort of abuse of process. Any person who procures unnecessary improper initiation proceedings by third party also liable for damages the abuse of legal process that results in improper initiation proceeding, he or she can be liable for damages for abuse of process. So we move on to discuss about the defenses. Immunity of judicial officers. The judicial officer is generally exempted for civil liability for abuse of process if, if the jurisdiction of the officer is complete and attaches to the person, the subject matter in connection with alleged illegal act that are committed. The officer acts within the scope of his and her jurisdiction and in a judicial capacity. However, the judicial officer can be held liable for abuse of process if the officer acts without justification or commits abuse while acting under the pretext of his official capacity. Attorneys. Attorney is protected from liability for defamation that occurs during judicial proceedings. However, such protection may not provide attorney absolute defense to liability for abuse of process. Common abusive litigation tactics include the common abusive litigation tactics include seeking protection order against you and your friend or family